Thanks for staying here on News Desk. To some more stories now. This time around, turn our attention to health. And management of the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital has sanctioned the president of the hospital's Senior Staff Association, Dr. Charles Ofei-Palm, over alleged malicious comments on an Accra-based FM station. Now, the hospital management say Dr. Ofei-Palm's pronouncements on Class FM on Thursday, March 17, 2016, constitute a misrepresentation of facts and peddling of falsehood, according to the interdiction letter signed by the Korle Bu Director of Human Resources, Samuel Akotua-Akwari. The specialist pharmacist breached the hospital's media policy when he touched on sensitive issues during the interview. And that's quoted from that particular statement. It says the interdiction letter would not state the specifics of Dr. Ofei-Palm's purported false comments, but states, however, that the pronouncements made during the said interview tarnished the image of the hospital and also brought the name of the hospital into disrepute. And indeed, that particular letter there, we have all those details for you. We're trying to get in touch with Mr. Ofei-Palm, Dr. Ofei-Palm, to bring a lot more clarity to this very issue. We've been trying to speak to the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital, and indeed, the public relations officer of the facility tells us that they are not commenting on this issue for now. Aside the letter that they wrote to Mr. Ofei-Palm, Dr. Ofei-Palm, I beg your pardon, they are not going to comment on this issue for now. So we're keeping an eye on this, and we'll try as much as possible to bring you a lot more subsequently. But away from that, let's turn our attention to some more educational stories here. And a communal conflict is looming in the Laura district of the Upper West region over the siting of a government community day senior high school. The school is currently earmarked to be built in the town of Bo in the eastern corridor of the district, but the neighboring of Domwini says the land allocated for the school is theirs, and are insisting that the SHS be named after their community. Rather, Upper West correspondent Rafiq Salam visited the school and the area and also now reports.
Domwini and Bo are two communities located close to each other in the Lara district of the Upper West region. Apart from their closeness to each other, indigents from both communities are related by blood ties and have been living peacefully since the days of yore. However, the peace that exists between the two communities is not being threatened due to government's plan of siting one of the new community day senior high school at the eastern corridor of the district. All four communities in that enclave appear to have interest in the siting of the facility in their communities. The Lara District Assembly then set up a committee to look into the issue and find a suitable place for the siting of the school. The committee, after visiting all the four communities, settled on a parcel of land located between Domwini and Bo and recommended for work to begin. Martin Bawochelano Dominic is the assemblyman for the Domwini electoral area.
What I know is when they went, it was the Domwini people who showed the land. But unfortunately, the name of the school came in the name of Bo. So Domwini people immediately petitioned the president through the regional minister, saying they are not objecting a senior high school to that particular community. But if it was on their own shown land, the two communities, this is the first time I'm seeing something different. They were like one. If you know one, single one that day, that was how it was. But it looked like the community entering about development have not been done properly.
Bawochelano now warned the situation could degenerate into a communal conflict if the authorities fail to act faster on their petition.
The minister should get the paramount chief and the DCE and some stakeholders should meet these two communities. If they meet them, they meet the Tendama. I don't think there will be a problem.
His opposite number at Bo electoral area, Beat Pencil No, however, downplayed his threat.
It was when they were trying to obstruct, that is what I would say, that they went over to, after we had shown our piece of land, and they also went the other way around and went and showed another piece of land that was close to ours. I can see that it had entered our place. So they showed their place and Bo also showed their place. So I'm surprised, I'm very surprised that they will say that that piece of land is for them. If it is 18, then we are coming back to the district assembly, because it was the district assembly that set up the committee, and that committee went into the matter and brought the report to the district assembly.
Meanwhile, the Lora District Commander of the Ghana Police Service, ASP Benjamin Samani, said his outfit was already aware of the tango between the two communities.
For now, I can boldly tell you that I've monitored as a police commander the situation there, and it's relatively calm. And we are still monitoring. Should there be anything, we'll give you for that.
Despite a threat of a looming conflict between the two communities, the contractor is on site and work is already progressing steadily.
Reporting for Joy News, Rafik Salam, Laura.
And here in Accra, my name is Kwabna Chenchen. Let's do some more stories now. And the U.S. Ambassador to Ghana, Robert Jackson, is calling for close collaboration fighting terrorism. He says Ghana, like any country in the world, is not immune to terrorism. Speaking during his maiden visit to the Ashanti region, Ambassador Jackson called for international collaboration against threats. Right, and away from that now, and Ghana's performance when it comes to enforcement of anti-corruption laws has been described as poor, despite the many brilliant laws that exist to fight the canker. One of the key reasons for this shortcoming, according to the United Nations Convention Against Corruption, is the addition of the power to prosecute to that of the Attorney General. Speaking at a review of Ghana's implementation of the UN Charter on Anti-Corruption here in Accra, Anti-Corruption Advisor Samuel Dijegri explained that the decoupling of the prosecutor's function from the AG is critical if the country is serious about improving its anti-corruption credentials.
View of Ghana's obligation under the ANCAC in 2013 saw the country being given credit from some successes and good practices used in the fight against corruption. The ongoing review seeks to discuss and focus more on criminalization and law enforcement, as well as the country's commitment to cooperate with other states to fight corruption. As it stands now, the UN's anti-corruption advisor, Samuel Dijegri, believes a lot more work needs to be done enforcing the laws.
And which looked at the United Nations Convention Against Corruption. Now, there's a number of issues that can be improved in terms of the fight against corruption. There is some offenses that have not yet been criminalized in Ghana. For example, illicit enrichment or corruption in the private sector or corruption of foreign public officials. When it comes to the institutions, there's also a recommendation around more independence for prosecution power when it comes to corruption cases. And that is to ensure that there is more efficiency and effectiveness in prosecuting cases. So when you look around the region in West Africa, most Anglophone, in fact all Anglophone countries in the region, they already have anti-corruption authorities with prosecution powers. That is the case in Sierra Leone, in Ghana, and also in Nigeria. So there seems to be no good reason why also in Ghana there couldn't be an anti-corruption body with the appropriate prosecution powers that would be independent, or at least to have some sort of independence when it comes to prosecution of corruption cases.
The President's advisor on corruption and governance, Daniel Batidam, agrees decoupling the AG's office from that of the Minister of Justice could help the country fight corruption more effectively. He, however, says government will need more time for that to happen.
Our reality, which is that we have an Attorney General who is also the Minister for Justice. Some think that is not the best if we wanted to move forward with prosecution in a manner that will, in the eyes of the public, be, apolitical, which I also agree with. But the point is, it is a process. It is a process to either decouple the AG's office from the Minister for Justice, which is one way of looking at it. Others have recommended, as I said, the having an independent prosecutor.
Meanwhile, the Attorney General and Minister of Justice says government has made significant strides in the fight against corruption. She highlights ongoing investigation into the National Service Secretariat corruption scandal and the JIDA scandal, where government has been able to retrieve over 50 million cedis.
Currently, the prosecution of several corruption cases are ongoing. There's the case of the ghost names on the payroll of the National Service Scheme, where 35 officials, including a former executive director and his deputy, have been arraigned before court. And already we have 8 convictions in that case. 130 others are being processed for court, and these are the district directors involved in that stand. There are also the cases involving GIDA, where the former national coordinator and the CEO of one of the service providers are being prosecuted for fraud and causing loss to the state. Sums of money totaling over 15 million Ghana cedis in this GIDA case have been retrieved to the state. And with the passage of the Youth Employment Agency Act of 2015, Act 887, measures have been taken to install strong systems to ensure probity, transparency, and accountability in the agency. The Youth Employment Agency is the new GIDA, as we are all aware.
However, acting Shraj boss Richard Quayson has a different priority in the fight against corruption. He stressed that government must prioritize funding to Shraj and other public accountability bodies like IOCO.
If we do not have resources to do the work, no matter how good your team is, no matter how anxious you are to carry out your responsibilities, if the resources in terms of funding to be able to carry out these duties are not there, it becomes very difficult for us to do our work. We are not supposed to be probably the last institution to be considered when it comes to funding.
Do you see that coming?
Well, I believe that it's a matter of all the stakeholders understanding why the Constitution insists that it should be a first charge. Because otherwise, if we are waiting for what is considered priorities of other stakeholders before we are considered, then we may never get there. So the Constitution says that it should be a charge. In other words, prioritize the funding of charge to be able to do it.
The two-day conference is expected to propose other legal reforms that are necessary to bring the anti-corruption legal framework in line with the United Nations Convention Against Corruption. At the end of the conference, key consideration will also be made on the Witness Protection Bill 2015. Matilda Pamagan for Joy News, Accra.
Still watching News Desk here on the Joy News channel on Multi. We're taking a break. When we come back, Emmanuel Abojiri for joins us with business. Stay on.